Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesign.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening. I got lucky, you guys. This evening, I got lucky. I was thumbing TikTok the past couple days, and I found this fella here, Mr. Julian Brown, and I was just floored at seeing the amazing device that he has innovated. Like, he is out here turning plastic into gasoline. And like, when I first seen it, I thought it was some stuff out of like Back to the Future. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, my first thought was Doc filling the Mr. Fusion with trash, and I was just like, but this guy's actually got like something going on. Like, he's found a way to not only help the earth and get rid of all these microplastics that, you know, the folks on this show here absolutely dislike. If Neptune was on here, you'd know he'd be ranting about microplastics already. So, but you know, I think he's found a good answer to it, and I don't know, the best way I can do is just let him explain it to you guys. So first off, how's everyone doing this evening?
Great.
Outstanding.
Awesome. Fantastic. Awesome. So, I mean, just to kick it off, Julian, I know that you're only an 18-year-old fella, so I got to know where did this come from, man?
Well, I started working on this project 3 years ago when I was 15, because I always been an environmentalist, I guess you could say. I always cared deeply about nature, and I felt like we need to always, respect the source and our roots. So, I would always hear about all this stuff with plastic. We'd always see videos about it. We always see the oceans. We all saw that video of the turtle that got the straw up its nose, right? All that horrible stuff. But there was a trend, right? We would see all these horrible things, and there was no solution being offered, right? It seemed like only more problems was happening. So I got to a breaking point when I realized that most of the plastics that I recycle, because I used to be an avid recycler, throw everything in the recycle bin that I thought was recycled. But I came to a breaking point when I realized that the stuff I was throwing in the recycle bin, a large majority of it actually ends up in the ocean, because it just gets shipped away to a third world country that doesn't have the infrastructure to deal with recycling it, and they just dump it in rivers or they burn it. So when that happened, I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done relying on the system to try to justify what I'm doing. I'm going to do something about it myself. So from that point, I just started researching ways, like, how can you recycle plastics at home? What can you do? And I realized one of the main reasons why recycling is such a big thing that isn't done that much with plastic is because it's really tough, because plastic, it's never perfect. It's never clean. It's always contaminated. Like food utensils, bags, everything always has stuff in it. So like, you have to think about it. Like, what is something that just like doesn't care about what's on there? Like almost like a fire, right? But if you burn plastic, that causes all this type of pollution. So I thought about another process. It's called pyrolysis, which is basically when you burn something without a fire, you have something in a completely sealed container, no oxygen is in there, and you heat it up to break it down, because as we know, heat will eventually break everything apart. So I started reading research papers on what pyrolysis is. Pyrolysis of plastic, because pyrolysis has been around for a very long time. There's been pyrolysis of biomass for very long. Like wood and trees and hay. So I looked up pyrolysis of plastic, and there's absolute tons of papers on this stuff, right? And I eventually found this thing on Instructables, right? It just was a random thing saying how to build a pyrolysis reactor, right? And it was just a thing somebody put together on his stove, really, really cheap, really ghetto, all that. But I wanted to build it. So I went ahead, I built that really just Mad Max little reactor, and despite it barely working, it did work, and it showed me something. It showed me that there's another way to do this. It showed me that yes, we as the people can choose what happens to this planet. We don't have to wait on some big government entity to come save us or do something for us. It's up to us now, and we have all the tools and resources to endure what we deem right for the earth and humanity.
Yeah. So I mean, I know people are going to be asking. I guess not too many people are going to be familiar with microwave
Pyrolysis.
Pyrolysis. Yeah, I butcher everything I say. I promise. So I guess, is there any way you could give us a little rundown of what exactly is going on there?
Sure thing. So there's two different forms. Well, really, there's unlimited different forms of pyrolysis, right? But pyrolysis, the basic point is you're going to heat something up without oxygen in there. Now, most conventional pyrolysis reactors, they heat up the reactor itself with like a natural gas flame or propane flame. But what happens is it's really inefficient because you heat it up from the outside, and that heat has to travel to the inside of the reactor, then inside the plastic just to break it down. So that led me to finding microwaves, using microwaves, because we know you put something in your microwave, it almost cooks it too good, right? Because it heats it up so quick because it's heating from the inside out. So microwave pyrolysis is essentially when we have the same thing, closed container, no oxygen, but we're shooting in microwaves to rapidly and efficiently break down whatever's in there. And one of the biggest advantages to microwave pyrolysis is the fact that it can run off of electricity, right? Because it can then be run off of solar, wind, hydro, or any other source of renewable electricity.
Go ahead, Luis. No, I'm pretty speechless. Actually.
I was going to ask you, because I saw that and I thought, wow, if you get the power ratio right, it really could be used as potentially a power source. But it's about how much energy have you estimated, at least with what you've built? How much energy do you calculate you've put in relationship to the actual output, and what can, after refinement, how much can you get out of it? Have you made some calculus? I mean, I know it's not easy to do that type of calculus because, it's like you have to measure exactly. It's like, I put in this amount of mass, let's say put in, 4 kilos, and then output of oil, output of gas, like that. What's been your trials and with that?
Yeah, so usually to get those exact numbers and all that, you do need, scientific measuring tools and all that. So I don't have any specific numbers for what I do, though there are research papers done, and basically the general consensus is, especially with pyrolysis of plastic, right? You usually get actually quite a big return of energy out. Now, in the papers, they show there's actually initially more energy you get out than you put in, but a lot of that gets lost as heat, right? We're not going to break the law of thermodynamics around here, right?
But if you made the system like better, like in terms of the dynamics of how it uses that heat in the future,
right?
You can take that energy loss and use it somewhere else. So definitely, as long as you continue. I mean, I'm seeing. Look, you're 18 and you're already built this. That means you're progressively going to get better and better, because this was generally built by engineers with 7 degrees you don't have. I mean, I've seen now there's other people in different countries working on this stuff as well. And I remember 13 years ago when I first saw this for the first time, I thought, this could change the world. Why the hell? 2022. This was invented 13 years ago. And, oh, there you go.
Yeah, this is kind of just a visual for the folks out there watching. This is basically what's going on here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Luis. I apologize for interrupting.
Oh, no. Well, the main thing is because you already are working to make it off electricity, and you're already building. I mean, I saw you had the filtration systems, so you really have thought out everything. When I saw you have a whole filtration system.
Do you have a video in specific you would like for me to? I can bring up that would show a little more about how it works or whatever? I've got all your pages pulled up.
I guess
TikTok
like
or YouTube?
On TikTok probably will be best since those
Okay.
videos are shorter.
Absolutely.
I forget which episode it was, but I have a Q&A video, right? I think it was episode 3. Yeah, where I
Episode 3?
specifically go
Oh,
over
nice.
the filtered
All
stuff. Yeah.
That was funny with the Obama. I'm Barack Obama. We're not getting audio, at least on our end. Just in case, you guys get audio because I didn't hear it.
I am not getting audio.
Okay, just in case, because I can see it visually, but
Right.
there's no audio.
At least
coming
there's
out.
captions, I guess.
Yes. And you could use. Have you already tried to use this for? Could this be used for fertilizer?
Yes, it can be used as biochar. I have not used it as biochar because I want to make sure for absolute
It's
certain
really,
there's no
really good.
microplastics. Yeah.
Have you? Do you have any? I don't know what state you're in. Have you spoken to any university about doing some test with their engineering departments? Because I think that a lot of schools would love to like see. Okay, let's look at the output because they'll see your work. First of all, some universities will be like, "Hey, you want to study here?" They'll give you literally a diploma. They're literally like, "We can't give you the diploma this second, but here you can study here for free." You just this is what's my paperwork. I built this.
Yeah. I did reach out to I'm in Georgia, the US.
Hey.
If you guys know about
you're in
Georgia Tech,
I'm Georgia.
you are.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man.
That's right. You were Georgia.
Oh boy, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
So
you should.
hey, I do have some. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Believe me, this is nowhere near my field of expertise. So treat me like I'm a second grader asking about astrophysics. Okay. The energy needed to go from one state to another, is your output going to be higher than your input?
No, absolutely not. That'll never be the case. You will always have to input more energy than you get out. However, the main goal of pyrolysis is not only are we doing waste management in an environmentally friendly way, we're recycling plastics, but we're also getting energy out. It's not a complete loss,
Yeah.
unlike
Okay,
conventional
so-
recycling.
You are
Energy
recycling
conservation.
plastic, but creating energy at the same time. And what you get from that is left over can still be used for something else, correct?
Exactly. It's a
Is this
closed
what you're
loop.
saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's portable energy. That's
Yeah.
that's the power of liquid fuels. Is the reason why we didn't use electric cars when the whole competition between electric cars, gasoline cars,
Yeah.
gas cars in the early 20th century. We selected gasoline because it was just the more portable, higher
Mhm.
output energy solution. And you actually be able to use distilled gasoline. How was that process?
Yeah. You know what? Honestly,
Doesn't sound easy compared to diesel. I think it's harder if I got
Oh,
my
man.
chemistry right.
man, the distillation thing, I got the whole series on my YouTube, but there were so many trials and tribulations. I got a shout out to all my my subscribers because I have some chemists from Poland and stuff, and they give me so many tips. They do this stuff at a lab scale, but you apply it to the bigger scale. I wouldn't be able to have gotten gasoline, kerosene, and diesel out of it if it weren't for those people on my Discord server that gave me the tips. You know what I'm saying? So the distillation process, let me tell you guys. So in pyrolysis, we get 3 products. The first product that forms when you break stuff down is the vapor, right? Now that vapor, it has some condensable components in it. So, just like how when water turns to steam, it can then fall down as rain, condense. Some components in this vapor, we're going to call it syngas for now. In this syngas, it it can be condensed, and that's how you get the liquid. Now, when you get the liquid fuel, it's a mix of everything. It's a mix of jet fuel, diesel, gasoline, all that stuff. So it is flammable. It can be put probably in some engines right away. However, I would, it's best to clean it up. So we take that and then we distill it. Now, here's the thing. As I said, only some of the vapors can be condensed. Not all the vapors condense. The uncondensable vapors that never turn to liquid actually stay as pretty much natural gas. Like you could say it's not like natural gas, like propane, butane. That's happens to a flammable gas. I take that gas, I compress it, right, into a modified propane tank. And I then use that very gas I get from this process to run the distiller. And then I distill out the products with the gas I got from the process. Everything.
That's how you're getting such high efficiency, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing is you, with obviously the help of the world community, has slowly brought up all the pieces together. And I think because you have done this, you probably have a better idea of how to simplify it for other people in the future. So I think you have the potential power to distribute this information further into the world, because I see at least a model where you could have certain parts of towns, they take all their junk to this section and they just create fuels, and then they pay off the machine, which is one, recycling for real, and two, the fuels kind of pay off part of the cost.
Right.
Not necessarily like I don't come off the wrong way saying this, but not necessarily like the developed countries would do this, but your underdeveloped countries, this would be extremely beneficial to ridding the area of trash and getting power at the same time.
Especially in Latin America. If I definitely would want to, if I can help you with translating some things in Spanish, you would have a lot of people in Latin America loving what you're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's parts of Latin America that have a very big trash problem outside of what you see in Asia. But you're right. There is problems here too in certain parts of the country. Let's not.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
There's parts of the U.S. that are you would consider third world countries. Let's be real.
For real though.
We just hide our poor.
Right.
We're not a rich country.
Do you guys remember? And of course, Julian, you're probably not going to remember. Louise, you might not remember. So this might be just a me and Bandit moment. But do you remember the old videos that they would show us where they were talking about everybody having a gas pump in their own garage?
Not.
No, am I the only
What?
one?
Young.
Showing my age.
That sounds crazy.
That
though.
sounds more like
It's old.
what
it's old, like
I
60s
used to
videos.
I used to
It's old,
see
like 50s, 60s videos.
Yeah, I used to see that out in the country and the Midwest, especially like farm country.
These were like futuristic type videos that they said that everybody would have
A gas pump.
These were like
that they could fuel their cars and shit.
There were these future. They were like you'd have
Like
your
the
own
future
gas pump
kitchens, future
at
homes.
the house. Yeah, future yada yada. And like my first thought when I seen what he was doing here is I was like, this dude's can make gas in his backyard and like probably run his lawnmower or his 4-wheeler straight up off the stuff that's coming out of there.
Right.
We've been doing that with diesel. With remember, I don't know if you read, I'm sure you've read into the Biodiesel Revolution.
Oh yeah, I know all about
it.
it.
2000s.
Yeah.
And how people have figured out. Some people were actually going to different places like McDonald's and other places and trying to get their oil. They were like, "Oh no, we'll take it from you for free."
Yep.
And they're like, "What do you mean for free?" Yeah, we'll take it from you for free.
And
but
turn into biodiesel.
There's only one side effect. your exhaust smells like fries.
Yep. Yeah.
So anytime you're driving around, it's like, oh, there goes Julian.
But hey, can I make a serious comment though?
Yeah.
You probably need to watch yourself on TikTok with these videos.
Yeah, like I seen like this one right here you got going on. This is a newer model you're making.
They are
the one that's in construction.
They are banning people like this online, showing stuff like this.
I mean, but there is already a mainstream academic side to all the science as well. Sure. He is just making what they would do in a laboratory. He's not doing anything out, and this has been around for 13 years.
I know this, but he's showing everyday people how to benefit and use this, and that is not. If this catches on, that's not profitable to oil industries.
True.
Excuse me.
Self-sufficiency, yes.
That's not that they don't want you to be self-sufficient. So
what can you tell me about this newer one that you've been building here?
Okay, so this newer one is going to be the most ambitious one yet. We're actually almost done with the construction of it. So for reference, as I say, we power this with microwaves. Now, microwaves are formed from magnetrons. Every single microwave ever, including the one in your house, has a magnetron in it. That's what creates the microwaves. And all of my previous reactors, we've always just had one. In this next reactor, we're going to have 5. So it's going to be the equivalent of you shooting 5 microwaves at one hot pocket at one time.
Yeah, I actually work on appliances.
6,000 watts.
So I actually work on appliances for a living. Like I see these pieces you're talking about, lying around on a daily basis.
Right.
So what size microwaves are you using on these?
I usually I get scrap microwaves that people just throw away.
Sure.
So they usually tend to just be work. 1 kilowatt. I'm not paying for those things that people just throw them away, right? So I don't have a consistent basis of what every single one I get, but most of them tend to be around 1 kilowatt.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you right now, especially since I know we're quite close to one another. I throw away microwaves daily, buddy. Like I can start ripping some of these out and setting them aside for you.
I like the sound of that.
I mean,
get some 30 megatrons together.
I will donate to the cause in a heartbeat. Like that's how I feel about stuff like this, and knowing that I actually have these literally, like I change them out on some microwaves or some microwaves I just throw away because something else is wrong with them, and it's a pretty common, easy to get to part inside the microwave without even trying. So, but it's amazing because you do see, I'm sure you see them all the time too, just people throwing them away because let's face it, just like with all this plastic and everything else, this consumer society that we're in, a lot of times it's just cheaper to replace it. Like I tell customers all the time that it's cheaper to replace the microwave than it is for me to come and work on it, because by the time I'm done working on it and you're done paying for parts and service, you have already bought a microwave and a half.
Yeah.
So like it's so they're pretty common to see them thrown out, and but it's, I don't know, like I said, I seen you using and discussing like cleaning up the planet with it, and that's something we've discussed on this show before and on this page about how microplastics. Well, how we're stuck with microplastics. You know what I'm saying? Like we're finding them inside humans and stuff like that now. It's gotten completely out of hand, and there's a lot of them. Especially our other co-host Neptune, which I'll keep quoting him. He talks about how we're stuck with them probably for God knows how long because of the process it does take for them to break down. But you could run a net through the ocean, scoop them up, and run your little machine, and boom.
Turn it into
something.
That was what I mentioned to Jim when I heard about your project, because there was a Dutch kid, I think around 16 years old. He started this. He's now in his 20s. He got the European Union to spend over $330 million to build the capturing system that's currently being used in the Pacific garbage patch.
Yeah.
And in part of his original work, and this was years ago, they originally wanted to build like ocean pylons that would capture the plastic and would use microwave pyrolysis in order to convert it into fuel, in order to power the pylons, in order to power the process. Currently, they are converting it into sunglasses. I'm guessing it's just easier for the time being. I mean, they're expanding the project. They're getting it bigger and bigger with time. But I remember even they were mentioning this process, and it probably somebody was like, that sounds like a logistical nightmare. And then what if you have a leak? Then they're going to blame you for the leak because it's in the middle of the ocean and you're automating things. Yeah. But there's still definitely such many use cases because you look at so many places.
So, I mean, I mean, I guess do you kind of already in a sense worry about some of that stuff? I mean, like it doesn't take much for you to, earn the CIA's highest honor nowadays, with sharing information, regardless of how, public and not public and how long they've been doing things. I mean, we can always go look at Stanley and his water powered car and how they just made him vanish, and you're most recently, like Bandit brought up the guy on TikTok, Dr. Parkenstein, who's been I did a little digging on that. Not only was he recreating the Tesla stuff, but did you know his entire neighborhood was powered by him?
What?
That's the reason they burnt his house down.
What? Somebody was powering an entire neighborhood?
He was powering an entire neighborhood with his free electricity devices. And that is why his house ended up burning down, so it would destroy the work. You can't change my mind at this point because he got booted off TikTok and house burned down all within a week.
Wow.
So, I'm not trying to bring alarm to you. I don't want you to stop your good fight. I agree with Bandit. It's in this day and age, it's definitely good to keep a keen eye over your shoulder. Is that something you concerned about?
The faster you become public, the faster you get connected to good people to assist you, to push you forward. The more visible you are. When you are visible, you become untouchable. So that's a good reference, and you already have a good energy about yourself. So I can see that already. So I just start connecting with some of universities to be like, hey, test out my soil, test out what I'm working on. Because I'm sure some departments will be like, okay, that sounds fun. Like there's a whole department in my shift. You know what? Let's try that. And you can literally create imagine students, college students that are 7 years older than you coming to you, be like, so what are you doing?
I mean, yeah, you could probably teach.
You can teach the class, which they'll be like, okay, cool.
So what got you looking into to this specific? I mean, I know you said it was because of the the plastic and stuff, but I guess what led to this specific subject? I mean, I'm sure you started
microwave pyrolysis.
Yeah, I'm sure you started somewhere else.
Yeah, I started with a typical conventional burner reactor that ran off of propane.
Okay.
And I don't know. Even though I liked the idea of we're doing this with plastic, I just couldn't stand how inefficient it was. I couldn't stand how I would be running it for 8 hours and it would but in the end, there would still be plastic left over, or how it would take so long to heat up, and there was so much wasted energy. So I remember it was just one night I couldn't go to sleep, and I was just thinking, and I just kept thinking and thinking. I just thought about different ways to heat things up super quick, and then I just looked at my microwave, and I'm like, that's it. And then that rest of the night I just kept looking up microwave this, microwave that. I ordered a mic. I didn't know then that I can just go to my landfill and get microwaves for free. So I ordered a microwave. I'm like, I'm taking this thing apart. I just got so excited, and then I immediately got to work on my my Mark I microwave pyrolysis reactor.
Okay, all right. And so I guess you're on. Are you on 2 now, or
I'm on Mark III?
You're on Mark III. Okay, that's what you're working on now.
What is the speed by which you can process at the moment? Because you mentioned the 8 hours. So what's the current speed in ratio to average kiloweight value? I mean, I know you can't be exactly precise in everything, because I know you said you don't have exact measurement systems, but give ballparks.
Okay. So Mark III, like I said, is still in construction, but because of all the features we have in there, as well as all the power, we're gonna the goal we're aiming for is you should be able to put load it up full of plastic, get it all turned to carbon and fuel within 2 hours tops. That's the goal.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Do you have any cool down time?
It doesn't need cool down time because microwaves don't really get the chamber itself that hot.
All right.
I mean, so in theory, you can be running this
plastic
almost all day.
Right. We do want to make it continuous. However, right now it's a batch process because I don't currently know the mechanical engineering to be able to make something continuous that can be airtight at the same time. You could put things in without air escaping and take the carbon out without air escaping. Still learning all that mechanical engineering stuff. It honestly is a lot, but it's a start, right?
I mean, if you can make the time gap between the exchange efficient enough, that's likely more than enough, because even if you make it continuous, if you have to over engineer to make it continuous, counter to just doing it and keep going. So there's that point of sometimes over engineering is causing more problems than not.
True.
I mean, but still, I mean, you've got to have some kind of engineering skills that you of some sort. You know what I'm saying? Like you've sat here and taken apart a microwave and figured out how to use a microwave for this. And I mean, that to me alone shows that you've got, innovative abilities to, mechanically work on something. I do appliances now. I've been a mechanic in the past and other things before and stuff. I'm fairly mechanically inclined. You hand me something and I'm going to take it apart and most likely be able to put it back together. It's few and far between that I can't.
Right.
And that in itself takes some kind of skill. So I mean, you're still young and have plenty of learning to do. So I believe that if you keep at the pace that you're going, you could revolutionize this even further. I mean, like I really see this as just the beginning for you. And I'm quite honored to be able to host you on here talking about this kind of stuff, because
we met you early before becoming super famous.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. But see, what you mentioned earlier is that recycling is a joke. It really is. I mean, the aluminum aspect is halfway decent, and paper is hit or miss. Plastics, it's just you throw the plastic into the plastic container or whatever into the recycling container, and 9 times out of 10 it will not be remade into something else.
So depending on the region you live in, you have the stupid little numbers, right?
Yeah.
And in some regions they'll just tell you we only recycle 1, 2, 3 and 5. That's it.
Yep.
And
they won't take colored plastics. They won't take colored plastics. They won't take this type of plastic. It has to be clear or whatever, because then that's easier to remake.
Profitable enough. It's because it's not profitable
Julian's
enough.
pretty familiar with the Atlanta area. I'm pretty sure he's seen we have a big dump that you can see from the highway in the DeKalb Clayton County area. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Julian, but there's it's an open public dump, and you can go in there and dump things yourself and such. And I used to work bank foreclosures many years ago when I was probably his age, and we used to go there on a almost daily basis dropping things off. And you're right, like you can stand there at the base of that trash mountain, because that's what it is, and there is more plastic around you than you can fathom. And you're told as a child, it's being recycled and reused, and this is recycled plastic. But the reality of it is most things that are made with recycled plastic, that recycled plastic is recycled in-house. Like it's shavings and failed pieces and stuff like that
That's what Apple's aiming to do.
Through.
They're aiming to disassemble. I don't know if you've seen it. It's actually pretty cool. Apple aims to, by 2030, actually just use their own product as the basis of their products in the majority of their production line, which is actually good initiative because of the complexity of the materials that is used in a cell phone. So if you haven't seen that, look up how Apple recycles the phones, because it is truly fascinating.
Okay.
But what I was getting to is, based off your research, what is the largest machine that has been viably created? And do you think in the future you'll actually be able to build something bigger than that?
So the largest machine that I know of, if I can recall, it was a YouTube video. It was in some European nation or country. I don't remember which one it was.
Sweden does or Norway does a lot of.
I know Sweden does a lot of incineration.
They do so much they have to import the trash.
Yeah,
they use it for energy. They actually use it for energy.
Well, I'm talking about pyrolysis plants. I saw a big pyrolysis plant, a huge one, built somewhere. I don't remember. It was England, some European nation, right? And it wasn't microwave pyrolysis; it was typical pyrolysis, and they actually used the gas that is formed from it to run the thing, right?
They do that here in Atlanta at that dump I was talking about, actually. Sorry
The
to
gas
interrupt.
pyrolysis.
They do the methane.
Oh yeah.
Everything that's underneath the ground or whatever is run back through a reactor and run back through, and you can see all throughout that dump areas that have flames to burn off the excess and stuff, and it actually powers that entire facility off of its own trash. So that's actually a good thing. And I apologize. You can go on back to what you're saying about the big.
But you know what? I think that's amazing that you said that, because that literally shows. Let me go into this.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Do you know what's going on with why those dumps are creating methane, right? Why is the stuff that's buried underground? Because pyrolysis is occurring.
Naturally.
Exactly. So the same process I'm doing, I'm just speeding it up. It happens naturally. That's how we get oil forming to begin with, natural gas pockets forming to begin with. So as I reiterate, in terms of scale, I think that this reactor, in particularly the microwave design especially, I believe that it's best done at not a super large scale. I think it's best done decentralized. My long-term vision is, let's have maybe, I don't think it's possible to have units in everybody's house because people are kind of stupid. Somebody will hurt themselves with it, to be honest.
Well, the radiation, I was going to get to that.
Yeah.
You're going now to 5x. And essentially, you're going now to such a voltage and to such a wattage that no typical home can run it. So
yeah,
that's one thing is like you were running before from 1, so a typical home can run 2, maybe 2,000 watts, but you're now going to 6,000, almost 6,000 watts.
I just had an electrician over today to install a big juicy power cord for me. A welder's power outlet, pretty much.
What did they say when they saw that?
Or higher?
I told
no, you had a 220.
Yeah, 220.
Yeah.
Was it 50 amps? Yeah. I just told them it was from my welder, and then when they came over and they saw the reactor, they was like, "What is that thing you're working on there?" I was like, "Well, just check me out on TikTok."
It's not a nuclear reactor. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think Michio Kaku, I don't know if you heard of that physicist. He actually built like a reactor in his college. He was allowed to, though. And he had support from his family and everything. I'm imagining he came from money. So he was able to build like a subcritical reactor himself. And you ever heard of the kid that stole like hundreds of what is it called? Like the Americanium, the smoke detectors, the INI.
Yeah.
Oh, super! Like it's actually a fascinating and sad story. He committed suicide not too long ago, I believe, in his early 30s. But because he was arrested, like he had a crazy history, but he stole like all these smoke detectors, and then he almost got it to subcritical and like actually create a reactor. Thankfully, they stopped him because he could have irradiated the entire area he lived in and made it unlivable. That's how crazy it was. And this was one kid doing it. He convinced professors. Like the way he did it is because he acted like a professor asking another professor a question, and they kept answering him. I mean, the kid was super duper smart. It's just, I don't know. He got really bad guidance, and then he kept on going and doing it. But it's a fascinating story of a young person trying to do something extremely out of the norm, but you're doing something relatively very safe in a perspective scale.
That's true, because you know what? Speaking of radiation, microwave radiation is non-ionizing. You know, I always say this. People always ask me on TikTok Live, like, what about microwave radiation? What about, are you going to get cancer?
Yeah, you should make a video just on that, so people are like.
I always answer the same way.
Yeah.
I always say, it does not cause cancer. It just heats you up. So it's not going to give me testicular cancer. It's just going to give me some hot nuts. That's it.
Well, the military uses a similar weapon. It's have you guys seen it? It's a gray panel. They can aim at like the sonic weapons, and it hits up your skin, and sometimes it can even vibrate your eyes. This is a crowd control weapon that the military has.
Well,
And
it's a non-lethal weapon they can mount on top of a Humvee. It's like a crowd, it's area denial weapon. And what it does is like it's weird. Like I said, I don't have, this isn't my area of expertise, but it's like you're getting sunburn, but you're not getting sunburn, is what it is.
Right.
So, my apologies. So I mean, I've always kind of known that about microwaves too, because technically microwaves were invented. We're a military invention to begin with. It was something they were playing around with.
I believe it came from the radar technology. They just changed the frequency slightly, and they were like, "Wait, we could also heat things up."
So yeah, no, it's just amazing though. I always keep saying that it's the younger generation that is going to, bring the next step of change. They're going to get sick of it and, step up and do something about it. And this young fellow right here, and that now that I'm even finding out in my own home state, which even makes it even that much more better for me, I feel, is out here actually putting these things into effort and into effect. Like from what I'm gathering, you pretty much taught yourself on, via the internet and, I'm assuming videos and books and other things that you come across and whatnot, because I mean, this isn't just something that you just go, you're not going to just come out of high school knowing this unless you did really teach yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't one of those things. And so I don't know. I implore you to keep learning, because I think that you, as young as you are and as gung ho as you are, you are going to have the ability that one of these days I might have one of your devices in my backyard making gas for my lawnmower and stuff or something. Like, I mean, there's got to be an answer. I don't truly think we'll ever get rid of, fossil fuels as a use. I think they were being used, I know they were being used before we were all born, even in this conversation and stuff like that. But I think they go back further than, we're led to believe.
Yeah.
And in a sense, and for different aspects and different things in different ways. Natural gas is always going to have been there and stuff like that. I mean, it's along the lines of the same genre of things that make things go. And there's even in the electric world, there's so much that's still run by coal. It's one of those funny things that I see all the time where people are like, "Oh,
you have a Tesla that's running on coal."
Well, I mean, not just that,
but
but you can't charge that Tesla without plugging it up to something. And most of the places that run their electricity are run off coal, and people don't fathom that, not the whole world is nuclear, not the whole world is hydro.
And you know what? That does lead me to this next point, because I think this is one of the most more ambitious parts of pyrolysis. Okay, so to start, as we talked about, methane released in landfills and all that. Plastic releases methane when just left out in the ocean, landfills, food waste, all types of stuff does, right?
Yeah.
So that makes the process of pyrolysis completely carbon neutral. We're not putting any more CO2 into the air than already would have been released anyway.
The government's going to love you for the anti-carbon tax thing.
Exactly. Now, there's an even better part. First of all, we can run this off of renewable sources, right? To make the source of the electricity that runs it clean. Another thing, you guys know the coal product we get in the end. It's carbon. Guess what? We can use that as biochar. Now we're sequestering carbon in the ground. Now we just make carbon negative fuel. So we make fuel that's cleaner than a Tesla. You can run a gasoline car that is carbon negative thanks to the process of pyrolysis, if it's done, in the greenest way, right?
Yeah.
And that's completely crazy, because as you guys were saying, there's a reason why fossil fuels exist, the energy density of it. We can't make everything battery powered.
Portability.
Right. We can't make dump trucks and excavators and all that battery powered. There's a reason. But we can make the fuel that we do use clean and more environmentally friendly.
Have you saved a few samples of the refined stuff? Because later on, that's something that you can get tested as well, is the octane ratings,
right?
Potential the energy output ratings. I mean, I know once you get to this bigger machine, I think that's when you can really talk to other schools and it's hey, I want to get all this stuff tested, and I'm sure you can literally build an entire class around this. And this is more the graduate classes that are going to work with you. So I'm telling you, you're going to get 25-year-olds and higher to be the ones that come to you. It's okay, this is fascinating, because the schools have the equipment to really help you, and they're themselves a lot of schools are going to want to work with you. So that way you can get grants. You can get grants. You can get a lot of government funding, a lot of like corporate funding to really push this forward, because you already have the initiative. You already have like the known proof. You have it. So you can definitely get tens of thousands of dollars in grants. Like you should be able to get that now.
Yeah.
To really push forward your projects.
And then, you know, from this guy's perspective over here, you know, I was just going to say, you know, I mean, you've done quite the grand job without him. And I say, keep pushing. Like, you know, I mean, it's as weird as it is, grants or not, or whatever, even outside things, like there could be an investor come along your way that wants to, you know, just beeline you into things of going further with this, or trying to aid you with this, or making your product just a little bit more better than it was the day before. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the potential in this is so grand that part of me is like, dude, jump in head first. And the other part of me is like, man, continue to just take these little steps, because I think that if you just keep this gung-ho attitude that you have about yourself, and I gotta say, I have enjoyed your little comic relief throughout a lot of your videos. Like you make me laugh, and on top of it, which just adds to the, you know, to the air of it, I guess. And like, it's, I don't know, if you just keep at it, man, I'm telling you, like, I'm going to be sitting here going, hey, Bandit, you remember when we had that guy that's all over these billboards on our show when nobody knew who the hell he was? Like,
so what are your aspirations for this, man? What is your next step for this? Where do you want to take it?
So my immediate next steps, I want to finish Mark III. I want that to be the reactor where I get the samples out of it. You know, I get the measurements and all that. Then I want to, once I have all that stuff, the scientific stuff, I want to patent it. Once it's patented, now I can do stuff like really get investors on board. You know what I'm saying? Really get stocks and stuff going. You know, there's so many people every day asking me, how can I invest? I'm like, we don't have a company yet. You know, I can really start all that. And then from that point, I want to get this to a point, as I was saying before, decentralized. I want like a unit of this in like every community, maybe, right? Maybe a permitted, licensed person has to run it, so nobody just kills themselves with the thing, right? Sure. But it's like in every community, because I feel like we don't need to send all of our trash to one place. We can deal with it at the source, right? Spread it out. So we can, obviously I'll start here in Georgia first, you know, maybe my city, and we slowly spread out, right?
I mean,
remember
Georgia
Dan?
Tech. We have Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and quite a few other high-level like technical schools out here, you know, that are on the market. You know, like Georgia Tech is a very pristine technical college. Like, people don't believe it or not, but there's some really damn smart people that come from that.
I mean, there was all this talk of college grants, stuff like this. Have you been approached by anybody? I mean, foreign or domestic?
Yeah, I have a college. I'm not gonna say the names, but I have been approached by a college over in Alabama. I did actually, way before I started doing the social media stuff, it was around the time of my first YouTube video, I did reach out to Georgia Tech. I did speak with a couple of professors. I guess it really wasn't, maybe it was because like I was just kind of starting the push online. Yeah, they really weren't like down with it like that. I see they didn't really take it serious or something, right?
Sure.
You know, it's all of this. You know who could benefit a lot from this would be your waste management companies. You know, have something, you know, in a larger scale at like a city dump.
Right.
You know?
Well, the thing is, you mentioned decentralized. Actually, we spoke to someone, Dan. He is building communities in Alaska, and he actually was building a DAO system.
He's actually got.
You ever heard of a DAO?
He's actually got a group down here too. Actually,
that's right too. But you ever heard, Julian? You ever heard of a DAO?
A DAO? No, I'm not sure what a DAO is.
All right, so a DAO, to simplify it, is a cryptocurrency investment fund. So it makes it very easy for you take a large amount of money and redistribute it for different purposes in a way that is trackable and a way that can work for a community. So you can create essentially internal economic systems for exchange. So in that way, like you just described, I think their model and what you're working on are completely in symmetry. And I think they should talk, definitely.
You know what? I'm actually in contact with Dan. He's been wanting to call me for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, then definitely talk. Definitely talk. Because he can show you like all of the other ways that they can get funding for you to actually push forward and get the patents and everything like that.
Another fellow I could actually recommend you talk to too, that I've been talking to recently. He goes by, well, that's who they were just talking about. Dan is Tiarzan. He's also in building some self-sustainable community type stuff. You can find him on TikTok, and he's been on my show recently as well, and Instagram and everything like that. And he's got a lot of good stuff going on. I've been in his Discord the past few days, just kind of observing and listening and paying attention to what the group's talking about. And you are on like the same level. Like I think we're all on this same level. We are all looking for a way to
connect the dots so everybody can thrive.
Establish our own infrastructure while Rome is crumbling, because we're not going to stop Rome from crumbling. And there's no reason to try to save the pieces of it that's there. Why not create a new with young people like yourself and like Dan? And
what you mentioned with Dan, it's not just like the cryptocurrency and funding. It's a small version of his unit could power a small community that he's trying to build.
It could supplement the power requirements, especially in a place like Alaska that has scarcity problems.
Yep.
So when it comes to the crypto world, there's a problem, and that's proof of like what's the actual proof that it's actually useful. And they're building a community system, so it's an actual use case for that. And your idea can really like collide, because they already had a people that to build houses at $5,000 a house.
Yeah.
So they're already building economic models for compensation, for time, like all of these beautiful things. And the reality is, for you to get patents, which I imagine you're going to need a couple of patents, each patent's $10,000 plus the revisions, which they always get revised. Because my friend was a patent lawyer. He actually does patents for microchips. So he works for the government, and he actually approves microchip patents. And he tells me the insanity of software patents that require microchips. So weirdly, when you do a software patent, you need to build a microchip that runs the software, but there's its own little insanity to it. So the cost of patents is extremely high. It could cost you $50,000 to $80,000, and it could take you 5 years to get the patents to go through. I'm just giving you, for the patent from go to patent pending to patented, could take you 5 years.
Correct.
So, and cost you $80,000. So that's why I was mentioning the grants, because I'm like, you're gonna need it.
That
gets expensive fast.
Well, I mean, I do see out on your link tree, which of course you guys, I'll make sure that you can find his link tree and his TikTok in this episode and stuff, so you guys can get back and support him. But I seen you had a GoFundMe going on for, raising some money for building this kind of stuff, and I think I do personally. I encourage anybody that's out here listening to this episode, watching this episode, or is curious about this kind of stuff, that if you want to be a part of it, man, donate to this guy if you can. Like, support this cause, because I think what he's doing and the idea that he has and what you would be helping invest in, not really invest like a part, but just, helping him progress here. Like, I think it's a smart move, because in 10 years from now, you could have one of these in your backyard for all you know, and it could be made by the fellow right here that we're speaking to this evening, Mr. Julian Brown. Like, he daggum boy genius, because you said you were getting started on this when you were 15, and I mean, look at you now. Like,
and there's several options for you to grow. Like, you can even do there's something called the Jobs Act, and that allows you to create a company if you were to go to the traditional routes. And I don't know if you ever seen invest in this company that works in pharmaceuticals, invest in this company that's building robots, invest in this company that's building machines to replace all the workers in the fast foods, and eventually everybody's going to be jobless and a computer's going to be running it, and then you make a micro profit off that. You can, and I have a friend who specializes in those things. So if you ever want to go to that route, I can also, like, there's so many amazing routes for you for funding these amazing projects and what you're going for. It's just
crowdfunding is an amazing thing, dude. Like
for this, I'll get a lot of crowdfunding. I
think so. Like, because I've seen, I remember when like the GoFundMe's and stuff first popped up online, and I was like, this is human ingenuity right here. Like, these people just finally decided to do something for themselves, for each other. Like, I thought it was a beautiful thing. And I've seen more, and I believe it's statistically proven too, that there has been more like medical bills and stuff handled through
GoFundMe. Has paid so much. I mean, GoFundMe and all these associated things, it's like, that's the joke, the meme. You've seen that meme? Like, the medical system in America is, GoFundMe.
Yeah, sure. No.
Proving once again the private sector can do it better.
The private sector, that's where I was going.
Well, I mean,
and that's like with,
it is,
and that's
true,
like with what you've
man.
got going on, with what you've got going on, Julian. That's I think you, and when you were talking about them being hesitant at Georgia Tech, I think it's probably because you intimidate them. Like, let's be real. You are a young kid that doesn't have the fancy piece of paper that says that you're the specialist in this field. You just did it with your own brain, which is completely plausible for anybody.
And see, the thing is, it's like, when he says intimidating, you're just a kid coming to these guys that have multiple doctorates and 20 years of being a professor.
Yes.
And they're like, wait a minute, no. These roles are supposed to be reversed.
Correct.
This is not, go away. Just go away.
Correct.
You're not supposed to be here.
I think they're going to react to you better once they see how far you've gone.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Remember, a lot of people contact them and then, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and are talking shit. You actually did it.
Yeah.
Most people are talking cuckoo
Luis,
for Cocoa Puffs.
that was one time, and we're not supposed to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, I reached out. They have certain divisions in Georgia Tech, and they had like a pyrolysis division and renewable energy division. So I think I reached out to a total of 20 professors that focus on anything related to this in any way. And I only had 2 respond, and I only got on a call with one of them.
Wow.
They're probably terrible at email and how you contact their offices.
True.
I mean, honestly, I would say one day just go over there.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Just flat out go, because remember, some of these professors, remember, after you go up in academia to a certain point, you have to filter a lot of stuff out of your life. Yep. So they might be filtering constantly, because if you have, let's say, throughout your life, you've gone through 3,000, 5,000 students, that's a lot of people that can bother you. And so you want to filter. So that's part of the reason you probably didn't get through all the filters. That's all. I don't think all of them were ignoring you. It's just legitimately you just didn't get to them.
And I wouldn't just settle, honestly, again, for Georgia Tech. There is, all around this state, we have some very exceptional colleges, and even over in Alabama. And, we're close to a lot down here in Georgia. Like, I mean, Florida and everything around us has things that probably have stuff like this going on. And man, I would be either get you an assistant to help you with it or do it yourself, but I would be trying to just track down everybody you possibly could to speak to on these matters, and inside the academia aspect of it, because maybe you might have a conversation with just the right person about it, and they could give you an idea for something that you're currently lacking, or
make some breakthroughs in ways that you're not thinking.
Jump. Somebody's gonna listen. Like I said, I seen you and I was beside myself, and when you messaged me back as quickly as you did, I was just like, I take Mondays off, but not tonight, because I have to talk to this young man. Like, it's admirable to me, and it's inspiring even, to see someone with the gumption to be like, well, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and make a difference my way, regardless of what anybody says, thinks, does, whatnot. I'm sure you're catching just as much flack too out there. There's always got to be haters in situations, just because there is. Like, that's just how life is. And what it really boils down to is people that don't understand it. And so,
Yeah.
Anybody with questions of stuff like this, that's why I'm going to make sure that I have his links up there. And, I feel like he's going to answer you. If you reach out to him, it might take him some time because I see him growing exponentially by the day as far as followers and such, but like he's looking for help just as everybody else is out there. I'm sure there's another kid out there on the other side of the country, or maybe even the other side of the world, that's trying to build one of these themselves, that's seen the idea either from you or from someone else. And I think it's stuff like this that is going to make a difference in the world. Nobody before we started this episode that probably listening even really had an idea of what this stuff is. I knew Luis would. Me and Bandit were kind of, I think, equally both like, ooh, I don't know, but let's talk to him because this is super awesome. Like, so is there anything you guys didn't get to ask Julian that you'd like to ask him before we get ready to wrap up this evening?
I wanted to ask you about what was your framework for learning this? Because since you didn't have what you would call the traditional routes of education, what was that system that you built for yourself in order to absorb this amount of information that usually takes people 6 years to get to?
It was it really was just ambition and just being opportunistic and resourceful, just like how I get the scrap microwaves out of landfills people throw away. I would go.
It's okay to say trial and error. It really is. It's okay to say trial and error. I almost burned down my garage. I had my hand wrapped up for a week, and I took one emergency room visit. It's okay to say that, Julian. It really is, man.
Any funny stories of the process when it went crazy?
That's what we're getting to. Go on.
Okay, well, let me finish what I was saying before. So I learned all this stuff through like reading tons of research papers on it. I literally have so many research papers bookmarked on my browser, and then watching every YouTube video. Like I looked up microwave pyrolysis on YouTube so many times, filtered relevant stuff, irrelevant stuff by views, by subscribe. Like I try to find every video possible just to see like where people start, because there's no need for me to start from scratch. You know what I'm saying? I can take what somebody else may have discovered and add to that. So that's why I really started with just doing it. I just, it's been so many hours of just pure research everywhere I could find. Now in terms of just, mistakes and all that type of stuff, of course, there's tons of mistakes that always come when you invent things. Actually, I'll tell you guys today, my Mark III reactor, okay? So I told people on TikTok on Sunday, right? I told them I was live, and I was like, okay, guys, we're going to go live on Tuesday. I'm going to be running this for you guys for the first time. You guys are going to see it running live. So I had to do some test runs today, make sure it was working well. Now, as you guys know, pyrolysis, no oxygen is present in there, right? Now, in all of my previous other reactors, they've been small. So to get the oxygen out, I can just easily push it out with the compressed gas. But this reactor that I have now is the size of a 55-gallon drum. So I can't push it out the same way that I did before. I didn't know that. So
use argon or something.
I usually
similar?
just use the pyrolysis gas that I get from the reaction to push out the oxygen.
Okay.
But anyway, that kind of was a reason why this happened, okay? But anyway, so I went to go push out the oxygen in this reactor, this 55-gallon drum, and I didn't push out enough of it because I didn't know how much was in there. So basically what ended up happening was there was a mix of this flammable gas in there and oxygen in a closed container. I went to go turn on the microwaves, and it literally exploded and shot the lid off of the thing across my backyard. And my mom came running out. She was like, "Are you okay?"
Shit, you should have recorded that.
Oh my lord!
I'm glad you're okay.
No,
hey, I am too.
Oh my god.
And you're gonna run into trial and error with doing anything. I mean, and that's the fun part about it.
I'm curious. I have one thing, and then I have one more thing, and then I'll be quiet. What could you possibly see the applications for, like a form of an internal combustion engine for a vehicle using this?
Well, I'm not sure if any of you have seen, but along the journey, I have put the gasoline product in a weed whacker, and it ran just like gasoline. The actual syn gas that comes from it, or the natural gas that comes from it, I put it in propane burners. You have to adjust the airflow. It doesn't like as much air as propane, but it runs the same. Same thing with generators. You could put in a generator, just adjust the airflow. So, it works in combustion engines all the same.
And lastly, you've seen the cars that are made to run on syngas, and there's some people that were building cars in the past that ran out from wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's some people that have modified
you can propane your cars. You can propane your vehicle with a kit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey, you've been bookmarked, Julian. Like we've saved you, and to come back later and update us on your progress, because this is the potential, especially with the whole push for. God, I don't want to say it. Green, yeah, thank you. That garbage, the whole push for green energy right now.
What politicians love. Technically, what politicians love. Man.
You're the Brondo to their plants, okay? You're the Brondo to their plants, man. Seriously, you're speaking like, and plus everything you're talking about right now. Could possibly get you later on could get you tax credits, pushing for green energy. True. This can get tax credits.
And all that. Yeah.
I was working with some company that they're building NFTs that have carbon sequestration credits bought into it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can try to convince them to work with your project as well. That way it's like, what are you doing? Well, real world application.
Get you branded, man. Yeah. Because then they can't Gary Webb you. Yep. Okay.
Right. And you know what? Speaking of that, does bring me to my last point that I really want to emphasize the most. The reason why I push this so hard on TikTok, social media, is because, you especially know, Luis, this is not new technology. There's nothing special about necessarily what I'm doing. I'm just the vessel for this idea. And I believe that the best way to do this is for everybody to know, everybody to build one. I show the whole process on my YouTube. I
wasn't sure it was possible for you to build one in your own home. That's why I was like, oh shit, you can. And I know there's a lot of work you put into it. I saw your entire process, and it's not simple, but if you break it down eventually, so you can simplify it, like so many people have nowadays been able to simplify processes because you took it from the ground up. So you can break it down in ways that many people cannot break it down.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you get this Mark III done, and whatever you get into the future, you if there's anything, you're going to be the person that knows how to build it up, take it down, and so forth, and educate other people on this subject.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. And and that's another reason why I brought you on here. For all the folks that you bring along that listen and stuff, I implore them to go and check out the rest of the show. That's just something we're here about, is we're trying to make a better tomorrow and show everyone that regardless of what walk of life you're from, that we're all kind of after the same thing at the end of the day. And we need to set aside these stupid differences we have and focus on things like what this young man here has got going on. This is something that could not only benefit the planet, but benefit everybody, especially people that are into things like myself, trying to work on having my own small off the grid community and such like that. That's my end goal. I want to go away from the world and go hide in the woods. I'm not going to host a show my entire life. I'm going to educate while I can. And one day you're not going to find me. And hopefully I'll have one of these devices out there so that, I can be that much more self-sufficient on my own, because something like this is just for that. Go ahead, Ben. Did I see you thinking?
I see your the largest application right now is ocean cleanup.
Yep.
Because the amount of plastic floating in the ocean right now is atrocious, to say the least, man.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know, Julian, if you did hear about that project and how they were going to potentially integrate that, but I would suggest you looking into that project, the ocean. I think it's literally the Ocean Cleanup Project. If not, I'll send you the links.
Yeah, I heard about the sunglasses part, but I had no idea.
But
about the
his original plan was that. So
Yeah.
look up back in the day. So the thing is, things change, the
Right.
government's effect. And they were explaining, it's just how do we make it sexy? That's kind of how they were breaking it down. And how do they make some money out of it? Because
Right.
I guess the profitability potential of converting it to fuels is one, but converting the plastic that they can get into a physical product that they can upsell up the yin yang kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So with what you're doing, you are actually doing something, especially with the carbon sequestration, that element, which would not be as feasible in the middle of the ocean. So I think that that's part of the mix together of why those solutions, but definitely Central America and South America has such a giant trash problem that I think once you can go past this point and go to another level of communication and start getting people in Spanish, a lot of the Spanish community are going to love you and are going to want to connect with you. And a lot of amazing people in the Americas are going to really want to emulate what you're working on and get things going, because I think that's really another way you can be extremely impactful in
sure.
millions of people's lives.
I completely agree. I need to learn Spanish.
Te puedo ayudar como pueda, de la mejor manera que pueda.
Hey, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. There's enough out there. Enough ways to learn this stuff and enough ways to break these these language barriers and such like that. And I do recommend you attaching with Luis if you'd like. I'll share your guys' information with each other and stuff. That way you guys can connect, because that's what this is about, is connecting and finding ways to grow things like this, grow things like this show, grow things like what you're doing out there. And I greatly appreciate you choosing to join us this evening. And
Yes,
I
sir.
do hope that you come back and keep us informed. Anytime you make any breakthroughs, or you're ready to go on the Mark IV, or you're ready to show off the Mark III or anything like that, man, you've got my email. You contact me and you have got you a front row seat to come out here and a platform to get your message and work out there to other people. Because, I understand what it's like to be censored. And that's kind of what led us to make our own website and show and stuff like that. Is I'm probably one of the there's a few of us out there, but one of the most unknown, most censored people there is in existence. And, there's a reason for doing stuff like this, and it's to make tomorrow better for my kids, for your future kids, for anybody out here that has kids or is yet to have kids. They're the ones who are gonna have to live on this planet and deal with everything when I'm long and gone. And the guys like you make me remember that humanity is a beautiful thing and can do beautiful things. And so I applaud you, sir, for your hard work and your innovation and what you have going on. And I look forward to watching you develop it even more and the bright future you have in front of you. And, if there's everybody out there listening and watching, I've got a link tree for him, his Instagram, his TikTok. You get out there and follow everything he's got going on, ask him questions if you need to and stuff, man. Let's change this planet. This is kind of the way to do it. So, Julian, is there anything you'd like to touch on one more time before I get ready to close this out for the evening?
I think we touched on everything.
Fantastic. Well, of course, you guys, like I said, I'll be able to make sure that you can find Julian and everything that he's got related to him, because that's how we roll. And of course, as usual, I'll have Luis tagged back so that you guys can find him too, because he's got a lot of good stuff going on. He'll be on tomorrow night with his counterpart from his show, Escape from New York. So should be fun for everybody out there. But until then, of course, you guys be sure you check out our sponsors. You can visit kirkelliottphd.com/Jimbob/ for your gold, silver, and consulting needs. You can check out Peachy Key Creations for all your homemade soaps, herbal teas, candles, and energy healing. If you use code OvalShorts3, you'll get 10% off at your final order, and that's Peachy Key Creations. We'll have it linked there for you. You can also check Ammo Can Ammo Can Survival for all your camping, first aid, and custom plate carrier needs. That's Ammo Can Survival. You can find him on Instagram, and if you use Captain Conspiracy 420, you'll get 10% off of your order of everything he's got going on out there. And so, of course, you guys, I appreciate everybody that's been on here this evening, and I appreciate everyone that's out there listening and watching and stuff like that. And crap. And we look forward to checking on Julian again, of course, here in the future and everything going on with all that. And so I thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of this. And remember that under a black flag we sail, and the sea shall be our empire. Y'all have a fantastic evening. Thank you.